Well, hello everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar today. I'm Ron Verhage, President of Seriously Smart Technologies, and our webinar today is on the subject of using our Q9 and S8 stress management systems for ADHD support. Now, if you are new to stress management biofeedback, let me give you a brief description of what it is and how it works. Our stress management systems operate in a gentle and a simple way. The client is connected to a biofeedback device via electrode bands that go around the wrists, the ankles, and the forehead. The device is connected to a laptop, and through the software, it sends approximately 11,000 frequencies into the body. The software analyzes the body's feedback and displays the results on our screen so that we can determine the potential causes of the client's stress. And then we work to retrain the body's stress response using those 11,000 frequencies. I'll mention too that stress management biofeedback does not diagnose, treat, cure, or heal. We do not assess and we do not prescribe. We strictly detect stress and then we work to reduce stress. So let's begin our discussion today about ADHD and how we can support and improve the wellness of our clients with our Q9 and S8 stress management system. I'll introduce you to a biofeedback diplomate, our resident trainer here at SST, Fernando Crespo O'Neill. Welcome, Fernando.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. So let's get into the information. What is ADHD? So ADHD is a developmental disorder characterized by an ongoing pattern of one or more of the following types of symptoms. One, inattention, such as having difficulty paying attention, keeping on task, or staying organized. Two, hyperactivity, such as often moving around, including during inappropriate times, feeling restless, or talking excessively. And three, impulsivity, such as interrupting, intruding on others, or having trouble waiting one's turn. It is common for people to show these behaviors some of the time. However, for people with ADHD, the behaviors are frequent and occur across multiple situations, such as at school, at home, at work, or with family and friends. As a couple of other pieces of side information, I thought this was interesting that ADHD occurs more often in boys than in girls. Behaviors can be different in boys and girls. For example, boys can be more hyperactive, and girls may tend to quietly not pay attention. So, why is the National Institute of Mental Health studying ADHD? Well, ADHD is one of the most common disorders diagnosed in children. Symptoms begin in childhood and usually continue into the teen years and adulthood. ADHD often co-occurs with other disorders and conditions, such as conduct problems, learning disorders, sleep problems, anxiety, or depression, which can make the conditions harder to diagnose and treat. For many people with ADHD, symptoms can cause problems in daily life. Symptoms can make it hard to get things done, interfere with school, work, or other activities, and strain social relationships. Children with ADHD are at increased risk for injuries, social problems, family stress, and poor grades. Teens and adults with ADHD are more likely to engage in risky behaviors such as substance use and unsafe sexual activities. So, what are ADHD complications? Well, ADHD can make life hard for children. Children with ADHD often have trouble in the classroom, which can lead to failing grades and being judged by other children and adults. They can tend to have more accidents and injuries of all kinds than do children who don't have ADHD. They tend to have poor self esteem. They're more likely to have trouble interacting with and being accepted by peers and adults. They're at a higher risk of alcohol and drug misuse and other behavior that can cause problems with the law. They have a higher risk of suicidal thoughts and suicide, and they can have sleep disorders. So, what causes ADHD? Well, this is an interesting one. I put down comments from two respected institutions for comparison. So the first one, while the exact cause of ADHD is not clear, research efforts continue. Factors that may be involved in the development of ADHD include genetics, the environment, or central nervous system conditions at key moments in development. That's a quote from the Mayo Clinic. Now, a quote from the Cleveland Clinic says ADHD is genetic. This means your child is born with certain gene changes that cause differences in their brain development or neurodivergence. Often, the gene changes that causes ADHD are passed down within biological families. Kids with ADHD commonly have biological parents or siblings with the condition. So is ADHD a disability? Yes. The Americans with Disability Act, or ADA, considers ADHD a developmental disability. The condition can affect your child's ability to do daily activities, including learning at school. Your child may qualify for special education and or modified instruction in school. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into the panels in our software that can be used to support ADHD. One of the things I did want to bring out is that according to ADD.org, the epidemiological data shows that approximately 5% of adults have ADHD. That represents over 11 million people in the United States. It occurs in both men and women, and in the majority of cases, persists throughout their lifespan. What's interesting is that the Mayo Clinic also recommends biofeedback for ADHD support. Now, one thing I do want to make here as a disclaimer is that just because our software can offer ADHD support, it does not imply or guarantee ADHD support success. So, with that being in mind, with all this information, let's think about that as we get into what panels can support ADHD. Well, right in the main matrix, we can do a search for ADHD or attention or whatever you feel is appropriate with your client. And then I like to work on the results that are in the red and purple or blue choices below 40. Now, interestingly, I did a search here for ADHD and we see that we came up with two choices. And then in the next slide here, we do a search for attention and we see we get about 8 choices. So this is, you can do the search here, and then as you find things that you want to work on, we can, here in the premium version of the software, we now have a custom Zap builder, and you can drag things over that are supportive for ADHD. And then what I like to do is I like to press the button 3-minute Zap. And what that does is in the custom Zap box here, each item will be worked on for 3 minutes. Next, you can click on EPR enhancements, stimulate reaction, duplicate remedy. And then in that box, in the white box, you can do invert ADHD. You can also invert other things that you feel are appropriate to your client, and then press start as many times as it takes until it rectifies. Next, we can also click on APR enhancements and select Patient Superconscious Reduction Panel. You can search ADHD and click Start. Then you can click Treat All to train this whole report that's shown. You can also do a screenshot of this report and go over that with your client after the session is over, where we can focus on the 4 sections on this report, which are cause, cure, blockage, and symptoms. As certified stress reduction specialists, we can coach our clients on ways to improve their wellness. Also, here in the main matrix, there's the new premium situation hold box where you can type in something like ADHD and then press enter on your keyboard. It will then give you a real-time suggestion for supporting your client in another panel, such as the Biofeedback Systemic Relaxation panel. Leaving the main matrix, we can go to our acupuncture and acupoint panels. Now, there are many ADHD support points according to Google. None of the photos that tie to those points actually say ADHD, like if you look at this image here, but I'll give you those common points if you wanted to write those down. There's about 6 of them. There's the DU20, the EXHN01, the EXHN02, LV3, SP6, HT7, PC6, and lastly, GB20. So those are all points that have been found to be supportive of ADHD in the acupoints and acupuncture panels. Now, leaving there, we can go over to the biofeedback systemic relaxation panel. Right off the bat, I wanted to show you, we saw when we did that search in the situation hold box for ADHD, this was the suggestion, the magnetic polarity balance. So that's right here under biofeedback in this panel. There's also under organ systems, we see attention deficit remedy. Plus, in this panel, we have 2 learning disability options that we can run with our clients. We can head over to the disease dictionary panel or disease lexicon. There are several support choices depending on your client's needs. Plus, there's custom support zaps that are part of paid for trainings. But we can see right off the bat, ADD is shown here available in the software. Now, leaving there, we can go over to the electrophysiological, or what I call is the freak panel, and there's the brain wave pattern therapy. And in here, we can select attention deficit. We can select the brain wave that pattern that we want to work on. I have theta selected here, which is a wonderful brainwave pattern that when it's been selected, our clients are open to wellness improvement suggestions. When we're done with that, we can also click on Attention Deficit Brain Fatigue Leap and go into that panel. And it looks like this, where we can support different portions of brain wellness. Plus, there in the top left, we see treat HD and /ID, where there's hyperactivity disorder and impulsivity disorder. Now, these don't always show up. Sometimes both of them show up, sometimes one or the other, and sometimes neither if it's not necessary for your client that day. But this is a great panel for supporting them. We also have the homeopathic panel. Some practitioners are also homeopaths, and they love using this panel to support their clients. Next, we can head over to the NLP panel. This is the emotional wellness panel, and there are a few choices in here. Here's one specifically for focus support. We see sports performance focus. Under therapies, we see neuropeptide balance, focus for now. There's also under the static small band therapies, the solfeggio tone for networking plus relationships. We saw that in the information earlier that those things can suffer from people with ADHD. Now, leaving the NLP panel, we can go over to the nutrition panel. And in there, you can, in the search box, you can type in ADHD and press test disease for best nutritional supplement. And then we can work on each of the choices shown until rectification. Now, some practitioners also stock nutrition in their office, and they can send them home with items that are recommended in this panel. Another new item in our premium version of the current software is the AFE Builder. In here, we have a few options that we saw also in NLP, and we can run those here in this panel as well. Now that's it for the Class 64 panels. Where else can we go? We can also use the Class Portal. This is a paid-for program that works along with our main program, but it also works separately. What you're seeing here is the newest version. We can see that we can do attention deficit support here, but then we also have so many other choices that can be supportive that would be beneficial for our clients. Now that's it for our biofeedback software, as long with our class portal. Now I just again wanted to make a disclaimer that just because our software can offer ADHD support, it does not imply or guarantee support ADHD support success. Well, what else does SST have to offer? Well, on our website, under the bioenergetic patches, we've got 2. There's a children focus, and then there's an adult mental focus. And these might be helpful for your client. And for more information about our new and previously owned Q9 and S8 stress management systems, please go to seriouslysmarttechnologies.com/devices.
And in addition to finding more information about our stress management systems, we have a section on our website that can assist you in helping you to find a nearby practitioner. The website address is seriouslysmarttechnologies.com/members. And to view what online training is available, you can visit seriouslysmarttechnologies.com/online-training. And to check our events calendar to find out when the next training events are, please visit seriouslysmarttechnologies.com/public-events. Well, another excellent webinar, Fernando, giving us information regarding supporting ADHD with our stress management systems. Thank you so much for doing that. And we would be happy to assist any of you with additional questions you might have regarding stress management biofeedback. Our email address is info@sstoffice.com, or you can contact us by phone at 989-321-2800. Once again, thank you for joining us today. We hope you have an amazing day. Now we can answer any questions you might have. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat box. Go ahead and do that now. I know we already have a couple in there, so I'm going to go ahead and start asking a couple of questions to Fernando. Um, Many adults have never been officially diagnosed with ADHD. So how do you determine when you may suspect ADHD support might be helpful for a client?
That's a good question. We might get people that we know that we're friends with, related to, and they've never officially been diagnosed, but they might have an inkling that maybe they might be suffering from issues caused by ADHD. So you can let them know, hey, I'm not going, if you were to come in for an appointment for me to support this, I won't be able to tell you whether you have it or not. But what I can do is offer ADHD support. And if you notice some benefits because of that, then that'll just be a win-win for both of us.
Right. Well said. ADHD clients may have a difficult time sitting for a full session. So what modifications do you suggest to the harness or to the timing of a session when you know that a standard session might be difficult?
That is so true. That can totally happen in situations like that. So at SST, we've got the Fernando Simple session. We started showing that to practitioners back in 2021. There's a way to kind of trim down the Seriously Smart session that I do 6 days a week with my clients to work around people that can't sit still for a full 2 hour session. So we can modify the session absolutely. And then sometimes you might find people that are very wiggly. So and or they might feel a little claustrophobic. So in instances like that, on our website we have what's called the head port pad, and that is something where rather than wearing a head harness, you might slip the head port pad underneath their shirt along their back, and then that way they might feel a little less enclosed, and that might help them relax a little bit more during a session.
Okay, very good. And I think that pretty much answers the next question that was put in there too, about some examples of what difficulties you might run into. And but you mentioned something about uh, constant movement. So that was part of this question about people putting their hands together or fiddling with the straps. So what would you do for that?
Well, one of the things I've been doing about that for about 12 years is something that came out about 12, 13 years ago, were these little fidget devices. So here's one that I keep literally where my clients can see it. And if my clients see it, each side's got something that they can do to kind of fidget. So there's that kind of a device. So like I said, I think I got this for a client back in 2013, and I bought several of them, and so they just kind of sit there near where my clients can sit. And then a month or so ago, one of my clients whose husband has recently retired had just gotten into 3D printing, and she came in with these different 3D printed items that somebody can play around with. Actually, one of my fidgety clients was playing with this one last month, and they dropped it into the foot spa water, which was really gross. But it's just a fun thing that people can play with. Now, speaking of 3D printing, I thought I'd make a comment that I saw a woman with ADHD talking about 3D printing, and she said, if you have ADHD, do not get into 3D printing because basically she made it sound like you will become completely obsessed with 3D printing and to the exception of everything else. So I thought I'd add that in since we were talking about that.
I can see that happening pretty easily. Okay, so do you have any experiences that you want to share regarding supporting ADHD?
Quite honestly, I haven't had anybody walk in the door saying, I have been diagnosed with ADHD. However, I've had a lot of clients that have come in with, like what we said there at the beginning, they haven't officially been diagnosed, but they've got ADHD type symptoms, would be a great way of describing it. And they have felt better or seen some improvement after an appointment, even though it wasn't even something I was even focusing on in the session. And then if I bring it up that maybe the software is calling out that they need support with it, they might go, I was always wondering about that. Or others might go, I don't have that. And then they don't want to believe me. But they do notice sometimes an improvement afterwards. Working with people that have been fidgety and having other things like that or a lack of focus, they have seen improvement as well.
Yeah, I actually know quite a number of people who kind of joke around about it. Oh, my ADHD or whatever, and I've asked them, "Have you been diagnosed with ADHD?" And well, no, but I mean, I have a lot of traits that make me think that. So you just never know. And for somebody like that, these kinds of things that you showed us today, Fernando, could be beneficial for somebody like that. Okay, well, I don't really I see one more question. How many sessions might you suggest doing for someone with an ADHD situation?
That's a tough one because as we saw there in the beginning of all the different complications that can be caused by ADHD, we saw how they can be different with men versus women and in other things. But I will say, clients that I've had come in that have overtly showed issues with it, some of them have never had to come back after their second appointment. And that's not true for everybody, but some of them. And I've talked about them. We have our weekly webinars called the Hangouts, where I've talked about some of these clients. But several of them, after the second appointment, they've never had to come back for another session. So that's been very cool.
Now, I don't know if this question is a good one for this topic, but the question is, where is a good brain balance program? So
What's funny that you asked that because after in 40 minutes we'll be doing another webinar called Stress and Brain Health Support. But what was the question again, Ron? That
where is a good brain balance program? Maybe what she's asking is in the software that we use, where is that? And yeah, that's going to be something you're going to be talking about in the other training. Oh,
yeah.
she's saying right and left brain balance.
Well, we see uh, in spinal, there is the panel called time treatments. And in there, we can see the different portions of the brain that we can do work for. That's awesome for balance support. Plus, in NLP, there's all the different learning things that are in there. We saw focus, but there's a lot of other ones that are in there that a lot of the ones that have sports performance in front of them or the GSR in front of them, those were all geared towards learning disabilities and educational related type stuff. And then I showed you there in the Freak panel, the Leap panel. The Leap panel is phenomenal for brain wellness support. That to me is the number one panel that I go to for brain wellness support with my clients.
Very good. Excellent. And yes, that training that Fernando's referring to this afternoon is one of the trainings that you do need to join with a payment. That is a structured webinar, and that will also be recorded and available on the website. Um, I guess that's it then at this point for the questions. So thank you again, Fernando, for the wonderful information about ADHD support and the answers to the questions. And thank you for participating in providing questions to us for this event. And we hope that you're here for the next one. And we hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.
Take care, everybody.